Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jay McInnes, episode 295, Sharp Stories. Today's title, The Liquidity Is Coming. What does this mean? We're going to continue on from last week when we introduced some new measures that the mortgage industry has taken on, namely first-time buyer amortization extensions, property purchasers of brand new home amortization extension, and insured mortgage price ceiling extension by 50%. So what does all this mean? Yes, it gets technical and who can do what and who can't and all that sort of stuff, but fundamentally when you pull back one layer of the onion, all it means is that there's easier money to be had. There's more access to money for either longer periods of time, for larger purchases, allowability, for cheaper interest rates. So all of these things, as detailed as you want to make them or not, all equate to money flowing easier. And what does that do? Well, clearly when money is cheap and easy, humankind tends to take it, as we saw during COVID.
You're right.
As an extreme measure. So we've got another little story here that I found interesting that I read yesterday, and which is another form of this taking place, which I wanted to share with you, and then some anecdotal evidence, always my favorite, to additionally layer on thoughts and what I'm seeing in that regard. So basically, there's a new project. There's a new project. This one will get completed. It's called Heatherlands, if you have or haven't heard of it. Started tagline here: an agreement between First Nations and the British Columbian government will see thousands of homes made available in Vancouver at 40% below cost. Now, oh my God, they're cheap. Oh my God, finally, cheap Vancouver real estate on the west side. What does this mean? You can quickly see the money's always needed, so where's it coming from is the question here. Someone's getting a break, and who's covering the bill? Premier David Eby calls it a remarkable accomplishment between the province and the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, still can't say that one now, which would see about 2,600 homes sold at 60% of the value in one of the most expensive real estate markets in the world. So, what does this mean? The agreement would be to sell 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units on 99-year leasehold First Nations land with government financing, the other 40% of the value to be paid back in 25 years or when the unit is sold. They will be screening to stop speculators, big bad speculators. Never forget, we need those people to get these projects at their financial pre-approvals, and we can talk about that later. But obviously speculators are in the limelight right now as the enemy, alongside foreign buyers, which of course have been banned. Not racist this time. While eligibility requirements for buying includes household income thresholds set at $131,950 or less for studios and 1-bedroom units, as well as pre-qualifying for a mortgage and a minimum deposit of 5%. So what does this look like? We've got 2,600 homes on this massive lot. The funny thing is, when I saw the picture of this, I assumed it was the Point Grey monstrosity coming back from the dead with some amendments, but there's a new circumstance here. So this is Fraser Lands just west of Queen Elizabeth Park. So what they're offering is 5% down, so the bare minimum. Financing of only, so you, the buyer, have to go out and get financing of only 60% of the product. So $1 million home, you only need to put down 5% and get pre-qualification for $600,000. And then the province will cover the difference. Now, there's no details here on they're financing the 40%. Are they charging you interest on that? There's no message on that to that note here. So at this stage, I'm under the impression that you are getting gifted that 40%, but I don't have that full detail or haven't been able to find a definite answer. So they will put forward 40% of the purchase price, or take off, I should say, as they're part of the operation, and you will pay back that 40% at either the 25-year mark or simply when you sell the home back out for fair market value. 40% off the top goes back to the province. Prospective buyers will be able to register and confirm their eligibility as early as next spring for the units on Heatherlands, the west side of Vancouver, followed by a randomized selection of eligible buyers with, naturally, priority to first-time home buyers. Studios are expected to sell at $372,000. These are the retail numbers pre 40% off, while I believe, while one bedrooms will be sold for $510, two bedrooms for $780, and of that 2,600, there are 540 social housing units included. So you've got 2,060 market homes here. So the homes are being basically sold at 60% of their value, and we will see how this all absorbs. So I have issues with this, obviously. EB says the province's contribution is estimated to be $670 million in loans. Again, I don't know if these are interest rate applicable loans. I don't believe they are, as that would be a big part of this conversation, which has been removed. So $670 million worth of loans for worst case scenario, 25 years. Obviously that won't play out for all of them, but that's definitely worst case scenario here. So we are lending 2,060 families $670 million. I think there's a bit better use of $670 million if they wanted to actually do something here. It reminds me of our trip to Australia recently, and we were walking down the street, all parts of downtown, and there was literally 3 homeless people sitting on the street, sleeping on the street, very polite, not the circumstance that we have here, but you just didn't see it there. And in speaking to a number of people, realtors and non-realtors there, they've all been housed. So they do have, I don't know where geographically, if they're out, as in my opinion they should be, or if they're in the city center, how they've done it, but they've done it. I can't think, it's a more expensive city than here, so I can't think that they just don't have the issue we have. I think they've just actually dealt with it properly. And I think circumstances like spending just under $1 billion can be done a lot better to actually get people off the street, which would assist in the city. But of course, they're now helping middle-class people with this $750 million getting into homes that apparently need to be gotten into in the most expensive land in the city, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I digress. The point of this is that in this narrative, they're pushing $670 million of value, taxpayer money, or simply borrowed money as we're already in debt, out into the system to make it easier. So this is another form of liquidity mapped up like the province is actually trying to do something to assist the problem, the housing shortage, they're calling it. At the end of the day, again, you peel it back and they're saying, we're helping this group develop this place and we're helping these owners do this and that. What they're doing is injecting money in an abstract way and building a narrative around it, like, look, we're trying to help, but at the end of the day, that's $670 million coming into the system from the government. So again, more liquidity entering the system. And I think we're going to now, we're on that trajectory. Of course, we've seen the interest rate drops in the last handful of months. We've got 2 more meetings before the end of the year, which I think we will continue to see drops and into the spring. So I think in saying all this, the liquidity train has started. It started with the rates, and now you're seeing a variety of adjustments for the mortgage. You can say it's because there is there's both provincial and federal elections coming in the near and relatively near term. Those are all kind of lines in the sand, but I think fundamentally with what the province and country has gone through, we're starting to see it in the States. They reduced 0.5% last week, I believe it was. They're now loosening from the tightening that they've done in efforts to try and get away from a recession. You can argue, depending on the stats that you're looking at, that we've already been in one, but they're now on the downtrend to getting the money back in the system. Tighten it all up with the rates, don't give out money, make it difficult to get, and now the floodgates are starting to open, the rates are coming down, mortgage details are a lot easier to achieve. You've got projects like this beginning. I'm sure this is definitely not going to be the first of stuff like this, so the money coming back in. So as they say, these rate drops and so forth take 6 to 18 months to work themselves into the market. Of course, those variable rate holders are affected the next day, but in all other terms, it slowly but surely makes its way out, 6 to 18 months. So my forecast with this is that the liquidity has begun and will not stop, and will only get a wider channel of this coming in. The rates will continue to drop. We will see more projects like this with narratives behind it that the government is trying to help. That's all fine, they're going to do what they're going to do, but the fundamental is that there's more money coming in. And by spring, I know the market right now is very inventory heavy, and sellers are very much on the fence. I've got a variety of listings in a variety of different price points, from quite low to quite high, and you're seeing a lot of hesitation at all levels. Assumably, let's wait till prices drop, or let's wait till rates drop. But I think where we sit now, as we get closer and closer to that spring market, which is the next year's obviously starting point, I think we're going to see a huge uptick in activity. I don't like to typically forecast market trends at all, but I think this is the start of something that by the time we hit spring, you're 6 months in, and we are going to be moving, and it's going to be a lot different climate than we are. I don't think prices are going to fall. I think sellers have waited and held out long enough, and if they wait another 6 months, I think the buyers will be forced to come. Fear of missing out will kick in, as it always does. And you're just going to see a lot more money come in a lot quicker and a lot easier.
You smell that? What is that?
What?
What's that smell?
A cologne?
No.
Opportunity.
No. Money.
Oh, okay.
I smell money.
Okay.
Anecdotal evidence of this as well, which again I love to add on. In the last month, I've received, I didn't know they could, but a mandatory credit card increase. I got a letter stating that they've increased the card without request. That was interesting. That's from my personal bank, and then the bank that I had my mortgage with sent me 2 credit card options with increased limits. The first one was a number, the second one was a second number higher, and a line of credit option. So they're just basically, do you want the money, do you want the money, do you want the money? So they're trying to, there's obviously a mandate at some point from Trudy and the boys above stating we need to get money into the system, we need to refresh this and wash it all out and get things going again. So you really see it on the personal side, at least I have. I've talked to a number of people who again have weirdly been given credit card options recently. And then from the government side, you're seeing now in all forms manipulation of getting easier mortgages, the rates on the money coming down directly, and then projects like this offering discounts of up to goddamn 40% to get people in. So don't look so much around the wrapping of the narrative, which is we want to make people's lives easier. The money's now cheaper. We want to make it easier for first-time buyers. Bullshit, but now we're just going to pile on more debt, but it's slightly cheaper every month, as we talked last week. We want to make things easier for West Side buyers. Let's pay for 40%. One layer of the onion, and it's just more money entering the system. And what does this mean? This means if you are on the fence, my suggestion, this isn't, I'm a realtor, there's always a good time to buy. There's always, of course, a good time to buy for someone, but there's never a good blanket time to buy. But I think we're going to see in the next 6 months a heavy U-turn in the course of the market climate, which is very listings heavy and very soft on sales. I definitely think looking at all the stuff that's taking place now, prepping that that we're going to see a very different market in the spring. And that, my friends, is episode 295. We're only 5 away from that big 300. Can you believe it?